We extend tolerance, and then we are told that asking whether tolerance is reciprocal is itself intolerant. There is an alliance forming in British politics. It is unnatural, it is contradictory, and it is extraordinarily dangerous. The alliance between the revolutionary socialist left and political Islamism, between those who want to dismantle Christian Britain because they despise its inheritance, and those who are perfectly prepared to exploit that destruction because they intend something else to inherit the ruins. Look carefully at British politics. Look at the activist movements. Look at the demonstrations. Look at the electoral coalitions. Look at sections of the Green Party and the radical left. Under politicians such as Zach Polanski, we are presented with a movement that describes itself as progressive, feminist, secular, socialist, and militantly supportive of LGBTQ plus politics. And yet, within the wider political coalition being assembled around parts of the radical left, we find an extraordinary willingness to accommodate religious fundamentalists whose deepest convictions contradict almost everything progressivism claims to believe. The left celebrates sexual liberation. Islamism condemns it. The left demands the removal of religion from public life. Islamism seeks the expansion of religious influence over public life. The left declares patriarchy to be oppressive. Islamist movements frequently defend profoundly patriarchal social structures. The left celebrates the right to criticize Christianity. Islamists frequently seek restrictions upon criticism of Islam. These people should be political enemies, yet instead they march together. They campaign together. They organize together. They vote together. Why? Because they share enemies. Israel, Western civilization, national identity, the traditional family, conservatism, the Christian inheritance of Britain, and increasingly, anyone who questions mass migration, multiculturalism, or the political influence of Islam. This is not a coalition of shared values. It is a demolition partnership. One side wants to tear down the house. The other intends to decide who owns the land afterwards. And the socialist left is arrogant enough to believe it will win. Well, history should cure them of that arrogance. Look at Iran. 1979, Marxists, socialists, secular revolutionaries, liberals, and Islamists participated in the movement that overthrew the Shah. They did not agree about the society that should follow, but they agreed about the enemy that had to be removed. The old order, the monarchy, Western influence, the existing political system. And so they cooperated. They marched, they organized, they agitated, they helped create the revolutionary conditions that brought down the existing regime. And then the revolution succeeded. But what happened next? The Islamists did not say, well, thank you, comrades, let us now build a pluralistic society to get together. They consolidated their power. The revolution devoured its allies. Left-wing organizations were suppressed. Political opponents were imprisoned, exiled, or executed. The secular revolutionaries discovered too late that they had helped create a political order in which there was no permanent place for them. They had imagined they were using the Islamists. The Islamists had understood that alliances of convenience expire when convenience is no longer required. That is a warning Britain must hear. The radical left believes it can ride the tiger, but it cannot. It believes it can mobilize religious voting blocs, exploit resentment, encourage identity politics, destroy confidence in the nation, dismantle Christianity, weaken the family, delegitimize patriotism, open the borders, fragment society into competing communities, and somehow, after all this destruction, emerge triumphant to build the socialist paradise. They are fools. Political revolutions do not issue guarantees to their useful allies. History is littered with people who helped destroy an existing order, only to discover that the forces replacing it had no intention of sharing power. The useful allies of the revolution often discover too late that they were never intended to share in the inheritance. They helped build the scaffold of the new order, only to find their own political freedoms upon it. That is the suicidal empathy of the modern left. They sympathize with movements that despise their civilization. They defend ideologies that would never defend them. They provide political cover for religious fundamentalists who reject their deepest convictions. And they attack anyone who warns them. Raise concerns about Islam? You're an Islamophobe. Raise concerns about sectarian politics? You're a racist. Raise concerns about religious intimidation? You're an extremist. Raise concerns about integration? You're far right. The accusations come because the answers do not. Let me say this clearly. Muslims are not the enemy. They must be protected from hatred, protected from violence, treated equally before the law, loved by Christians, and evangelized by the church. But Islamism is a political ideology, and no political ideology has the right to immunity from criticism. None. I will criticize socialism. I will criticize fascism. I will criticize communism. I will criticize liberalism. I will criticize nationalism. I will criticize the failures of Christian institutions, and I will criticize Islamism with no exceptions. There are no sacred political cows, no accusations of bigotry used to silence legitimate scrutiny. And this is where the political establishment has betrayed Britain. It is frightened of accusations, frightened of demonstrations, frightened of community tensions, frightened of losing votes, frightened of being called racist. And we know where this cowardice leads. We saw it in the grooming gang scandal. Children were sacrificed because institutions feared the consequences of speaking honestly. Still, the lesson has not been learned. The same cowardice remains, the same silence, the same denial, the same accusation hurled against anyone who asks difficult questions. But the British people are beginning to understand. A civilization cannot survive if it refuses to defend itself. A nation cannot integrate newcomers if it teaches them that the nation itself is shameful. A church cannot evangelize Muslims if bishops are embarrassed by Christianity. A democracy cannot confront extremism if politicians are frightened to name it. And a political movement cannot indefinitely cooperate with religious fundamentalism while pretending their differences will never matter. They will matter. The socialist activist waving the Palestinian flag may believe he or she is participating in a universal struggle for liberation. The radical feminist may believe she has found allies against Western patriarchy. The LGBTQ plus activist may believe that opposition to Israel and Western civilization has united progressive humanity. But history asks a devastating question. What happens when your allies win? What happens when they no longer need your demonstrations, your votes, your slogans, your institutional protection? What happens when you finally discover that the movement that you defended does not believe in your freedom? Iran answered that question. The answer was not tolerance. It was not pluralism. It was not diversity. The useful allies were discarded. And Britain should pay attention, because there is something almost pathetic about watching a civilization finance, defend, and politically empower movements that despise the principles upon which that civilization was built. We protect freedom of religion. Some use that freedom to demand restrictions upon criticism of religion. We defend freedom of speech, Yet some exploit that freedom to campaign against speech they consider blasphemous. We protect political organization. Some use political organization to advance sectarian interests. We extend tolerance, and then we are told that asking whether tolerance is reciprocal is itself intolerant. Well, enough. Britain must recover the instinct of self-preservation. One law, one constitutional order, one standard of justice. Freedom to worship, freedom to convert, freedom to leave a religion, freedom to criticize religion, freedom to preach Christianity, freedom to reject Christianity, freedom for women, for Jews, for homosexual people, freedom for Muslims who oppose Islamism, and absolutely no surrender to religious intimidation. This is the line. And now the church must awaken, because Britain does not ultimately need a stronger secularism. Britain needs a stronger Christianity, a confident Christianity, a missionary Christianity, a Christianity that loves Muslims enough to preach Christ to them, a Christianity that defends the innocent, confronts extremism, builds families, plants churches, educates children, strengthens community, and refuses to apologize for existing. The vacuum must be filled, because political vacuums never remain empty. Destroy Christianity and something will replace it. Destroy national identity and sectarian identity will replace it. Destroy the family and the state or the religious collective will replace it. Destroy the confidence of a civilization, and eventually another civilization will decide the future. And now hear me. The radical left believes it is winning. It is not. It is clearing the battlefield for forces it does not understand. It believes Christianity is the enemy. It believes the nation state is the enemy. It believes the family is the enemy. It believes borders are the enemy. It believes tradition is the enemy. So it tears them down one by one. When the demolition is complete, it imagines that socialism will stand triumphant upon the ruins. And history laughs at such arrogance. Iran stands as a warning. The revolutionary left helped shake the foundations. The Islamists took the state. The left helped open the door. The Islamists walked through it. The left imagined itself indispensable. It soon discovered it was disposable. And that is the warning to Britain's radical socialists today. You may march together, vote together, campaign together, shout the same slogans, despise the same enemies, tear down the same institutions. But do not confuse temporary usefulness with permanent friendship. Do not imagine that because you help destroy Christian civilization, you will be permitted to decide what replaces it. Do not imagine that movements which reject your deepest beliefs will suddenly embrace them once political power has been secured. And do not imagine that history owes you survival merely because you believed yourselves virtuous. The forces you are helping to empower may not always need you. When that day comes, your hashtags will not save you. Your slogans will not save you. Your rainbow flags will not save you. Your revolutionary credentials will not save you. The institutions you destroyed will not be there to protect you. The freedoms you mocked will not be there to defend you. And the civilization you taught generations to despise will not be there to shelter you. That is the tragedy. The socialist left may yet discover that it spent decades dismantling the walls of the city, only to complain when forces hostile to its own freedoms walked through the gates. Britain must choose another path. Not hatred, not violence, not persecution, but courage, truth, one law, freedom, national confidence, and the recovery of the Christian foundations that taught us that every person bears the image of God, that power stands beneath moral judgment and that liberty must be defended. So let Britain wake up. Let the church wake up. Let the political class wake up. Reject Islamism. Reject socialism. Reject sectarianism. Reject cowardice. Reject the politics of national safe hatred. Defend every peaceful citizen. Protect every innocent neighbor. Preach Jesus Christ. Rebuild the family. Recover the nation. And remember the lesson written across the history of revolutions. Those who help destroy a civilization are rarely guaranteed a place in whatever rises from its ashes. The left, it thinks it's building the future. It may be building the machinery of its own political extinction. And by the time it understands the difference, it may be far too late. This is Bishop Kai for Faith Speaks Louder. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right, but look up, Britain.